Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, YouTubers from all over the world. A new week, new ropes. So as you can see, since the last update, we've done some more standing rigging in this central area and some more from the bowsprit. So the ones I completed yesterday in these two blocks here, tied off from up there in the main mast. We'll have one more to do today up there on the top. That will be like these two here, and feed these down through the opening in the crow's nest down to some cinched blocks, double blocks, and then to some eyelets that are on the deck, and then up to the baling pins. So we got one more to duplicate that procedure. The double block, cinch the main line on there, and it comes up through the front here, go through that hole, and then up to the almost the top. That's 679. So we're looking at 679 here through a block. I'll have to open that block up and get this 0.8 millimeter rope in there, and then that comes down to a double block and then tie off to a baling pin or a, what it looks like is going to in front of that rack where the baling pins are. I'm getting more and more confused on this. Because this is where all the tie-off points are on the deck. I looked at this yesterday and I could not find that 679. I'm gonna have to look this over really close. It could be down there. I didn't look at that, but according to the drawing, it's coming down in front of the rack. 679, 679. Looks definitely like it's in front of the rack. Which could be here, I guess, in this bowsprit rack. Put a baling pin in there. I gotta look at that smaller exploded view of the rack and see if we can find that. The other two I could not find. So that's my dilemma. I gotta take this print off the case here and try to figure out where those go. There's a whole bunch of drawings on the back here, but mostly are for sails and all the rigging for the sails and where they tie off at. We're working on the standing rigging now, and it's really vague where to tie them off at. So here's a good example there. $6.99 goes to an arrow, but it doesn't tell you so I got to look at each one of these and try to understand what they're doing there. So that's what I'm working on today. I'm going to punch with this some more and try to get some more clarity on where these land at. See, a couple from up here are cinched up, go through some blocks, and then down to a baling pin. But I was assuming that's where it goes because I couldn't find it in the print. The picture's showing it going into that area. So it could be like these other two here where there's a double block tied to a baling pin after it goes through some of them other double blocks that are under the rack. Oh my gosh. I'm really looking forward to that. Okay. So yesterday we did one of these over here. And that was the first one I've attempted to do. I used the little eyelets that are in the floor to be my anchor point. I'm trying to save these baling pins for when we do the sails. So we got to get this through an eyelet down there. And there's no room. So I got one end of this with super glue on it. And then the whole string is been rubbed through my wax bar. Got some beeswax in a bar format, so you can see where I've been dragging the ropes through there, and that helps stiffen the rope up and get rid of the fuzzies. So now I gotta try to do a little granny knot. Get this anchor point started. Make that snug. We'll put some glue on that in a minute, but because we're putting a little beeswax on there. It helps cinch these knots pretty nice. So now I'm picking a hole near the inside. This is really awkward. Get a hold of that thing. There we go. So this will pull up straight when we get the rest of it threaded. Got a little thing sticking out on the end of my thread here, so I'm going to cut that off. Try to keep it clean as we can. And keep this from getting all tangled up. I keep switching tools, find the one that works the best. And the more ropes we get on this thing, the harder it's going to be to get in there. I do have one set of tweezers that's really long. Those will be definitely helpful. Okay, so now we just got to tie that back off on that eyelet down there after we get the slack out here. And because these ropes got wax on them, they don't like slipping through the blocks very easily, because it made them stiff. So I wish that would have been in the front or in the back, but now it's in the front. So we'll just tie this off around the bottom of that block instead of going over to the eyelet. And this is one of the main, this one here is one of the main ropes that goes for standing rigging. So I got a slip knot there, but it's not. There we go. Now a little glue and keep that from coming off. I got a nice long little stick here. And then we'll put a little glue on that first eyelet down on the deck. And after that sets up, we'll cut those tails. So yesterday tried to find the spot where these things were supposed to land at. This one comes up and goes through this big eyelet because there's going to be a sail mounted on here. And that ties off up top. And yesterday I did this other one, goes through that block and then down to the first block we were showing there, and into an eyelet in the deck. So we're trying to verify the location of these tie-off points. And you know, looking at our parts list and our plans, this one we just did, 680, and you can see 331, it's a double block, and then there's another rope down here. So on this side it told me 675. Well, I'm thinking, oh, if it changes from 682 big line through a block and then it changes to 675, well, that 675 should give me a location down on the deck for a tie point. Logical, right? Yeah, in the part list that just determines what size, what color and all that. But it should also tell me a location. Now, the location drawings we're tying off in the main mast area, which is this one. The number is not here. Either the big rope number or the small rope through the block number. So I'm really discouraged because the ones I did yesterday up here on the front, the same way. We got 2 and 3 of them now we got done there. So I just used some eyelets that are on the deck as a starting point into the block, and then ended up on a baling pin. And now we're over here on this mast and we're running into the same problem. We're not getting the information that we thought should be here. And I know when I did the same model maker, Anesthesia Latina, the last model we built, in the drawings it told me where to put those ropes, and they were all pretty much set in stone. We did not have any questions at all where they go. Why is it not the case on this one? Same automaker. Prints are a little different. I don't know if this is a newer or an older style, but a lot of my numbers that I'm looking for are here. So we're just picking a spot. Hopefully we got room for everything else, because I gotta spend some more time researching what these numbers are compared to the sale print. Maybe they're just for sales and nothing to do with the standing rigging. That's the only assumption I have, is that all this we're working on now is standing rigging, and we're not getting good definition on where to tie them off at the bottom. So we have to take a 1.5 millimeter drill bit and open up some of these blocks that we went through. And one there and one there, two of them up here, because that 0.8 millimeter rope barely fit through a 1 millimeter hole, so I had to open them up a little more so I didn't have to fight it with a 1.5 millimeter drill bit. So sometimes you got to improvise to succeed. So we got a couple more on this back mast here. Maybe one more. Yeah, one there and down. And you see it goes straight down, and it goes to a double block and then ties off somewhere below. There's a bunch of double blocks there and there. Yeah, there's some right there. So we're just going to go down to a double block, because we got all those double blocks down there on the bottom. We installed when we built the deck. So we'll do this one next. Do a cinching and a tie off. And then I'll pre-cinch a double block on the end of the big rope. That's what I've been doing with these. I take them and put them in the vise on the bench and pre-cinch this 0.8 millimeter rope onto the block and cinch it. And then I bring it over here to the ship and I figure out how long it's going to be, plus a couple inches for tying. And I cut it and then I feed it in where it needs to go and do the tying. That way I don't have to try to be cinching a block over here on the ship out floating in the middle of the air, which is really hard to do. I've had to do that in a couple places, but you can't get it really tight when you're cinching out here around other things. You don't have control of the tension very good, and it's just so much easier to do it here on the bench. Get her cinched in. Now, the last few pages in the book are really not much help. You know, there's just so much crap there, you can't tell the difference between one thing and another. And they don't show you front, back, and side views, so you don't really get to see all the stuff you want to know. So we're just going to play it by ear. Try to figure it out. Okay, the lovely job of tying rat lines. This first knot, I'm just doing a double granny. Getting even spacing there. A little dab of glue on that knot so can't come apart. Now for the clove hitch, or what I call a clove hitch. It might be something else, but the first loop I go over the top, around the back and over the top. Second loop we go under the bottom and through the opening left by the first loop. And then pull that snug I'm going to leave a little bit there so you can get through. See how that pulls tight? And I usually pull to my left a little bit to make this taut here before I pull it tight. And we got a whole bunch of these to do. I got that piece of notebook paper back there to help me stay level as we go across. I'm not worried about the spacing near as much as I am making it level. It's a little high. Scoot that down. Pull it tight. I got a clamp on the top holding the paper. I need to put another one over here. So that is how you do the rat lines, one at a time. And if we counted these up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, probably 14, because we're going to stop here and do a separate set of rat lines up to the bottom of the crow's nest. There'll be a wedge shape here going up to those eyelets. So 14 roughly. Let's say 16, because you're going to have at least 2 more up here, if not more. 16 times 6. A minimum of 96 runs. We'll probably have close to 100 of these runs. And 5 knots. So 100, 200, 300, 400, and this has only got 3 in the back, 3 shrouds, so it'd be at least 600 knots. Aren't we looking forward to this? 600 knots. Wish I could go that fast. So we got the standing rigging pretty much done everywhere that I think it should be. And I spent about an hour yesterday looking at the prints to try to understand what they're doing, because all my standing rigging wasn't showing up on this termination drawing. So I flipped the prints over where the sail, you got all these diagrams for the sails and the rigging on them, just one after another. We got like 12 different drawings, and these numbers are showing up on there, and I was able to track some of them and reference them to a figure somewhere. Some of the other ones I couldn't find anywhere that were part of the sales, but just as a basic start, highlighted some of the ones that were on a certain figure, and then I went to verifying that the location of some of those is similar to this number here. 694 is a rope coming down, and we found that 694 on the forward mast in the baling pin rack. Great. So we're thinking that's part of standing rigging, but it's not, because when we look at this detailed drawing of that 694 along with 700 and 699, those are for hoisting the top yard arm up through that sheave up there in the mast. So they're not part of the standing rigging, which made me look at some of the other standing rigging location termination, and none of it was here. So this is pretty much 99% sure that this is all for the rigging of the sails and the yard arms, and no standing rigging appeared in any of these numbers when you went to backtrack it from the standing rigging drawing. And we use that standing rigging drawing to do some of these initial runs that will, some of them will support sails, but the other ropes that are involved with rigging the sail are not part of standing rigging. So that's what we found. My viewers that are building the same wooden model ship are going to run into the same problem if it's the same kit maker. And if you have any questions, just look at my last few videos when we're doing this standing rigging, and we just picked a spot that looked logical and drop that stuff down. I added a cleat on a couple of these masts. There's a cleat there. I used a couple baling pins and, you know, just whatever looked logical as far as a solid termination point, and try to follow the directions as much as you can where you can understand it. But when it comes to the standing rigging, you're pretty much on your own. Of course, the rigging of the sails is going to be one rope at a time, figuring out where it goes, running it in the proper pulleys and blocks, and then doing the termination down on the deck. So we're gonna struggle away with these rat lines before I start doing any of the sails, because there's a lot of ropes on the sails, and then we got 100 rat lines to do and 600 or 700 knots to tie just to get the rat lines out of the way. And that probably isn't a true number, because I didn't consider the rat lines up here. You're going to have at least 1,000 knots before you get done if you add these rat lines in that go up here all the way to the top crow's nests. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of knots. If that's encouraging, you got to just stick to it until it's done, and we'll work on one area at a time, take a break, and then do another area. You're probably looking at 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how proficient you get with the knotting for that clove hitch, just for one set of shrouds. So don't get discouraged, just hang in there and keep plugging away. Thanks for watching the wooden model ship.